and welcome to the new episode of The Quest for Excellence, brought to you by Intellectus Consulting. My guest for today is one of those industry professionals who is a trained medic, doctor by qualification, and also an MBA from one of the Ivy League B schools of the country. This unique combination of being a medical professional and a master's in business administration has placed him in a position where he is able to get a deep insight not only into the business but also into the commercial aspects of the business in terms of driving excellence. My guest for today is Dr. Somnath Datta, who is the Associate Director for Commercial Excellence for Janssen Pharma business, that is Janssen India. Dr. Somnath is an MD in clinical pharmacology from the Maulana Azad Medical College and an MBA from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. Post his MBA, he joined Bristol Myers Squibb, India, where he had a very successful stint in launching original novel proprietary products in the therapy areas of diabetes and cardiovascular through strategic alliances with both AstraZeneca and Pfizer. Dr. Somnath spearheaded the launch of the diabetes brands Onglyza and Combiglize, which was a joint partnership with AstraZeneca, and subsequently also spearheaded the launch of Eliquis, that is Apixaban of Pfizer, for the cardiovascular franchise. After a successful stint of 4 years with BMS, Dr. Datta moved to IQVIA, which is the global leader in sales audit and consulting practices for the life sciences industry, where he was a practice leader advising clients and business leaders on various aspects of the pharmaceutical business. After a successful stint with IQVIA, he then joined Janssen in a commercial P&L role as the head of the immunology business, which is essentially the biologics business. The biologics business of Janssen had been underperforming for almost 4 years before Dr. Datta joined the organization, and very quickly, in a span of a year and a half, turned around the business and made it one of the fastest growing and most profitable businesses of the organization. With this P&L role experience, Dr. Datta took over increased responsibility in terms of running the commercial excellence side of the business, which now includes digital marketing, sales force excellence, data analytics, and marketing effectiveness. He's primarily responsible for new digital initiatives of Janssen through omni-channel marketing, HCP engagement programs online, and driving data-driven decisions through data analytics. He is extremely passionate about data-driven analytics and driving excellence in business decisions. It is our privilege to have Dr. Somnath be our guest for this episode, and I'm sure a lot of pharmaceutical marketeers will stand to benefit a great deal. So without wasting much of time, I now would like to invite Dr. Somnath to join our session. So thanks, Dr. Somnath, for joining our series of the Quest for Excellence. We're really delighted to have you on as a part of this series, because it's only appropriate that you, as one of the successful business leaders of our industry, share your perspectives around what it takes to achieve high standards of excellence around domains like marketing excellence or commercial excellence, which are probably the areas, functional areas that you have been closely working with in not only in your present organization, but also in your last organization of BMS. So, as I had outlined in my mail as well, Somnath, is that our only endeavor through this whole series is to raise the standards of marketing excellence and make it a kind of a learning platform for the young upcoming marketeers. And one of the ways that we can help them is to learn from those who have been a part of that journey of success, right? I mean, who have seen challenges, who have overcome those challenges, and who have had to really, strive for success. And what better way than to learn from people who have kind of been there, done that, as I said. So I thought it was appropriate to invite you to also be a part of this series, because you have bring in a rich understanding around not just strategic marketing, but also in your current role of commercial excellence, where we will be spending some time. So
thank you. Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you for inviting. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, as well as to give an honest conversation with the marketing folks. I think that honest conversation is somewhere missing, and I do intend to keep it as honest as possible, so that the marketing, anybody from marketing or sales who wants to move into marketing, gets a real feel of what works, what doesn't work. My own experience of being in this in the pharma industry for more than a decade now. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So let's dive straight into the conversation, Dr. Somnath. And as I mentioned, you're one of those few industry professionals who has that rare combination of being a medical doctor by qualification, right? And an MBA from one of the most premier Ivy League B schools in the country. So very curious to know, you had a gamut of options, right? And pharma industry was probably one of them. But it's always nice to know what prompted you to take up life sciences or pharma industry as a calling in terms of your choice. And it would be nice for me to know, because I've never asked you this question ever in the past.
So, I was a very good student in the medical school. So let me also tell you that there were a lot of really good options. And so I would imagine that during my internship, I realized that I have little more different skills. I used to do good in my studies and all, but I had some other skills as well. I had organizational skills. I was part of the students' union for 4 years. I was probably the only person who was in the union, and as well as I was the top 10 list of the students in the medical school. So I realized that I should not spend my time seeing one patient at a time. So during my internship, this kind of stuck to me, that looking at one patient at a time was very, very inefficient. I know it's how things are, but I felt that I can do more. And that's where during my internship, I thought I'll move to the pharma industry. I can probably tell you, and there are many marketing people as well who don't join the industry as a calling. They just come in because, oh, nothing else, let's join the pharma industry, or let's join the FMCG. And that itself creates a big barrier for them for long-term success. So because I was very kind of very strong-headed, and I realized that, okay, I'll join pharma industry, and then I'll figure out what to do. And again, the MBA part was totally not planned. So I was thinking of going into clinical research. So I did my MD in pharma, even though I could get an MD medicine or a pediatrics or ophthalmology, whatever you name it, very good rank in the MD. But I chose to do pharma because I wanted to get into pharma industry. Again, a choice because I wanted to get into pharma industry. The easiest way was clinical research. While I was doing clinical research, I was interviewed by a very big company which doesn't exist now in Delhi. And that company said, hey, you need to do clinical trials, the same thing that you're doing. Hey, I already doing this for the last 3 years. I said, no, you have to do it again. So I again realized it's inefficient. So then it happened. During MBA, I realized that the business is a lot more exciting. The rubber meets the road experience is what I would really be interested in, and that's how I moved to pharma industry, but in the marketing side, and didn't stay in the clinical research side. Yeah.
Right. So one thing is obviously at a very early age, two things stand out what you've just mentioned. One is your leadership skills. That is, you not only know the priorities of yours in terms of your academic excellence, but also balancing the priorities of the students' union versus the, the educational institution's priorities. So you need to balance out both. But what's interesting is you were very clear and sorted out in your mind that you wanted to pursue clinical research, and so you signed up for MD in clinical pharmacology. But along the way, you realize that you probably would do better off in better roles like commercial sales and marketing roles, and you again change track, which again demonstrates a great degree of flexibility in your thinking, probably because that's seen even in your roles that you take, the choice of roles that you took up later in your career, right? Would that be fair to say that, Somnath?
I have a slightly different view, and maybe that's how I am wired. So I look at my work as an entertainment. Now, I know it sounds very odd, but you get bored if you stay at home, and that's why we all go to office. So if you think of your work as entertainment, then you would have the right mindset, not get bogged down by the day-to-day problems that you face, the day-to-day politics, the day-to-day. There are many things, right? So we all know, and we have been through that. Yes. But look at it as entertainment. The moment you look at it as entertainment, then you have the whole plethora of things that you can do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you can do marketing, you can do sales, you can do clinical research. So as long as you think that, okay, I'll be here and contribute and also enjoy myself, I think that is the right way to think of your long-term 30, 35 years of work that is left in front of most of the marketing guys. I think that would really help.
Amazing. I think that's an amazing kind of a mindset to have. That is to look at work as an entertainment, contribute, learn, and have fun at the same time. Very well said. I think this is a very important point as a take home for our audience, right? So let's come to your the first stint you had with one of the world's most respected, innovator-driven companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, right? And when I see the kind of role that you perform, you were straight away pitchforked into, launching two very big products, original research products, which were in a strategic alliance role with AstraZeneca, right? But one was Onglyza and the other was Combiglize for the management of type 2 diabetes, and followed by an even, equally important launch in the cardiovascular area through Eliquis and Apixaban of Pfizer. So I would like to essentially, understand, and for the benefit of our audience, around a couple of areas, Dr. Somnath. One is, could you help us understand for our audience, what was the kind of launch preparedness work that went into making these launches so successful, after these products hit the market? So if you could share some of the marketing preparedness work that the team did and you spearheaded, and, what are the key learnings that people should learn when you handle such, innovator proprietary product launches? If you could share some of your
Sure. So I was incredibly lucky. I would say that very, very lucky. From ISB, BMS actually hired 4 of us. I was hired incidentally in the marketing team of diabetes. It was my greatest learning experience. You come with a lot of theory, a lot of knowledge base, because you are a medic, right? So you can come and kind of give a huge, long discussion about a product, but then how do you market it? So I think it was a great learning experience. A new launch, I would probably say, I was a product manager then, okay? So I was basically carrying boxes. Let me be very, very honest with you. So I developed very good, excellent project management skills, because, it's very important in the initial years that you have that excellent project management skills. I'll come to that again later. But the preparation was like a key for any success in innovator brand. So the amount of preparation we took for Onglyza launch, or even later for Eliquis. Eliquis, I was like T-18, we started the work. Science, you need the science, you need the marketing, you need project management, you need collaboration. So it is kind of everything has to fit perfectly for a good launch. And you rightly mentioned, Shailesh, Onglyza, Combiglize, Forxiga, and Eliquis put together is almost, I think, $15 billion globally. So these are very good launches, and I was part of them. So it clearly got me into a mindset of understanding the preparation part very, very well, understanding the market, HCP journey, patient journey, forecasting it properly, the regional teams, what are other countries doing. So you are not basically, reinventing the wheel again and again, right? So all of that has to come together. I would say that it's interesting. I would highly encourage everybody, if you get a new launch experience, just jump and take it. I mean, it doesn't matter which brand, but if you get an innovative brand launch experience, I think nothing like it. Yeah, Suresh.
Yeah. So you stressed upon a couple of aspects in what you said, that is probably the fundamentals, right? As a product manager, one is project management skills, which I think stays with us as one of the key skill set areas, even when you become the head of marketing or even in commercial head roles, because you're doing multiple things affecting project outcomes, project timelines, etc., multitasking. So I think project management skills, very often people fail to understand that is also a part of the job, to be very honest, right? And I think the second thing, what you said, is getting into the basics like patient journey, forecasting, building out all that stuff is very, very important. One question, Dr. Somnath, is being global brands, obviously everything would come from the headquarters, right? The positioning toolkit, the global brand promotion kit, etc. So very often it is felt that Indian affiliate managers or any particular country manager, product managers, or the marketing managers would not have much to say. Although I don't say that is true, because you also need to customize the kind of communication to your HCP audience in the relevant country. Was that kind of work also done for these four brands in your time, in your stint?
So here is the thing. Yes, the region obviously has a lot more interest to make sure that the brand does well in your country. Obviously, so they are very, very hands-on. Now you can take it again, the entertainment mindset if you have, then it's a great learning as well, right? Those guys have in hundreds of countries. So you can learn from them. That's the first one. The second one, if you have enough information about your market, if you have enough confidence that your market is slightly different, I have not met a regional marketing head who doesn't want to listen to you and change their tack just to make sure that your India launch becomes successful. So no regional head I have ever met has refused me if I've given them enough data, enough understanding of the market to change their marketing game. And we have done it for Eliquis. We did not have the global visual aid for India. We actually had a very different India-specific visual aid. It took us a lot of time to convince. But if you are convinced, I don't think the region is some, and I'm sure you have also experienced that. People are more than happy and willing to accept your point if you have a background and you know why are you doing this. Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's a very good point. I think if you have a compelling case to make to your region or headquarters, they're always very supportive of that. And if they see merit in it, they would go or extend any arm or length to support you in that. It's a very valid point, yes. Dr. Somnath. I had a slightly different question. This is for benefit of our brand managers from Indian pharma companies. Of course, the multinational companies understand what it takes to work in that environment, which is more predictable and a good environment. Indian organizations are now having tie-ups with multinationals in terms of licensed products, like say for the DPP4 or the SGLT2, as you know. So managing alliances becomes very important, Dr. Somnath, right? I mean, so you were the interface from BMS and you had to do that. So my early learnings many years ago was, obviously you don't bring your personalities into the game, because otherwise it gets into the human aspect of egos, etc. And you want the alliance to win and not and the brand to win. Any tips or any small piece of advice to those brand managers handling these very important brands which are in strategic alliance formats, so that what should they always be wary of when you're, dealing with this? It's just some tips, because these are learnings, because it can come in the way of success, Yeah, it can.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll be honest again. So now when I see the alliances, they are very well cut out. So there is a different brand name. It's a very hands-off approach from the MNC. They don't have the shared sales reps model. They don't have a shared marketing MAF model. It's completely separated. And I was not lucky, right? So I had a very, very messy alliance. I had a duplicate team. Some people going to cardiologists, other people will go to orthopedic surgeons, messy. If you ask me, alliance management gives you high visibility. I think the highest visibility you can ever get if you are in an alliance. I had a chance to go to the Pfizer headquarters in New York. I had a chance to sit in a dinner table with the number 2 at that time, BMS, and she was interested to know what is happening in the alliance from the lowest level of marketing. So the kind of visibility is very high, but to get something done in this kind of a messy alliance, see, X amount of work requires Y amount of effort, right? But in alliance, it will take like 3-4 times that effort to get the same work done. So I personally now like the way most of the alliances work. They have divided it. You take a different brand name, you sell it. I just give you into your distributor. You are just like a separate brand, and whatever you sell, it kind of keeps us away from the whole effort duplication. And I personally feel that is great. I would imagine that the difference in culture comes in the way, as you mentioned. AstraZeneca had a very different culture. BMS, again, very different culture. And Pfizer was totally different. And Pfizer had even bigger problem. The India Pfizer culture was very different from the global Pfizer culture. So they had their own challenges, and then we got in. I mean, if you like pay me more, I'll probably still say I'll skip this whole alliance thing unless you have a very structured alliances. For marketing, I think there are a few things which are important. Alliances teach you better communication. It teaches you how to get alignment done. Yeah, and alignments are crucial to make any alliance success. So my view is that once you are slightly experienced marketing person, get into alliance. I got into quite junior, so I was thrown in the deep side of the pool. I imagine sitting in a leadership team meeting where Keval Handa, Pfizer CEO, and BMS country head both sitting together, and I have to present. And I was just 1 year old. Difficult. I'll say it was difficult, but I was thrown in the deep side of the pool. I enjoyed it. Alignments happened, thankfully. We progressed, but of course the effort put in was way more.
Right. And they say that you can't learn swimming unless you're thrown in the deep side of the pool, right? So it was actually a very steep learning curve for you, which actually was good in a way. So that's true. I think the point that you're making, that today's form of alliances management in terms of clear demarcation of different brand names, no shared resources, separate sales forces, separate go-to-market strategy, makes it all the more simple and easy rather than what it was earlier. So I think what you have said in the first 15-20 minutes of our interaction, Dr. Somnath, is project management skills, alliance management skills are higher evolved skills that brand managers must certainly keep working on, other than the functional skills that we always have come to know, in terms of strategizing skills, execution skills. But I think this is something which is, I take this as a message that project management and alliance management skills are also equally very important, and that's something which is good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So now let's get on to the next part of your journey. And you're doing well. You decide to join IQVIA, which is the global leader in sales, retailing, auditing, etc. What makes you to move again? Is it the thrill of the challenge and the fact that you wanted to do something different? Was that the reason?
So, and this is a very interesting question. Most of us work in the industry without looking at the other side, which is the other side of the table is the services side. So you have agencies with whom the marketing teams work. But if you ask a brand manager, would you like to join an agency? They will say, no, I don't want to join the agency. And similarly, probably nobody wants to join a vendor side, right? So that's... So I decided to join because of mainly two things. One, you get a 50,000 feet view of the entire industry. So which I didn't get. Even with alliances, I could see a few cultural, but it was kind of 5,000, 10,000 feet view. but never got a 50,000 feet view. So that's very, very important to understand how does a company think? Because if you think of your company as a living animal, each animal is different. A Sanofi is very different from GSK. How would you know that sitting in BMS? You will never get to know that, right?
Right.
So you have to actually work with the Sanofi team and the GSK team to understand how are they different. And then you have the sharp players like Boehringer Ingelheim, MSD. So they are completely different from the large Sanofis and GSK. So how would you know these animals? So that's first. The second one, I thought I probably that was foresight. I don't know, luck, foresight, whatever you call it. I just realized that and I was a medical doctor. I had my friends in ISB were all like hardcore data centric, tech tech geeks, nerds, and I struggled there. I realized that they were right. I can't hide from data too long. So I said, okay, let me again jump on the deep side of the pool, understand data the way probably an expert would do. And one of my very good decisions, just to understand the data, I had to learn SQL. Now I don't think you will meet any doctor who probably knows about SQL. I had to go and give insights to a brand manager who has probably been in the same looking at the brand for 5 years. Now you go as external and have to give that person insight. So your preparation has to be of that level. I remember Intas. Yeah. So I used to look after Ahmedabad and Bombay, around 60 companies. I had to go to Intas, and I had 350 slides to take through the 4 business units of Neuro in Intas. And these guys are seasoned. They are number 2 in the entire India, right after Sun. Sun and Intas together control 70% of the market. So you can imagine, like, you are thrown in front of 60 strong sales and marketing team who are coming and listening to you because, oh, you are IQVIA, you'll tell us new things. But the amount of preparation that goes in to just give that insights is very, very enriching for me. So I think IQVIA was an excellent decision. I would highly encourage again to all the brand managers that if you get a data-centric job, consulting, market research, data analytics like IQVIA, it would really, really change your view about the entire industry.
Right. This again gives me a couple of lead pointers, Dr. Somnath. And that I would like to hear your views on the subsequent question that follows this point that you have made. One is that quantitative number crunching or data crunching or analytics piece is very important part of a brand manager's job, right? And I think that is the universal truth, because I think most of the brand managers would find it probably not just difficult, but also try to avoid the quantitative number crunching, because it's not something which is very easily likable as much as the soft piece of the piece, like developing communication or doing some real jazz stuff, right? So that is something that I want to touch upon, is how do brand managers really develop those skills? And second important piece, as you just mentioned, is insights. Now, insights is obviously very important for a brand manager to understand. And you said that, a guy who's handled his brand for 5 years still, is not probably aware as much about his brand as much as you. So the question is, today's brand managers, what do you find is working and what is probably they need more hand-holding in terms of building marketing capabilities in today's context? Where do you see gaps, or do you see that they require hand-holding? Because it's a natural corollary of, having seen from the outside in perspective.
Yeah. So most of the marketing folks, including me, let me include myself there. We find the entire advertising world really snazzy, jazzy, whatever you call it. So we all join because, this whole advertising, but then advertising is very different from marketing. Unless you come into a product manager role, you carry the boxes and go to different conferences and set up booths. You really don't understand, marketing is not that jazzy as advertising, right? Pharma marketing even more restrictive because you don't have any kind of a direct to the consumer channel, at least in India. So I would say that And this is something that I personally feel it may differ from people to people, but what I feel is the marketing, as I mentioned, the bottom layer is all execution excellence, project management skills. If you can't get things done, you can't go to the next levels, right? So I'll give you a very simple example. I had to present strategic slide decks to the leadership team, and I had to also make sure that the, let's say, some vendor had to send a trophy, and I had to make sure that this is at the same time. So these are two different work, but you need to juggle these, make sure that your project management execution is perfect. So your ideas have no meaning unless they are executed well. So that becomes the first layer. The second layer is what you mentioned about the entire strategic thinking, analytical mindset, analytical agility, as we call it. Yeah, and then also now important is user experience. You're not selling a brand anymore. You're selling an entire service around it. How is the user experience?
Absolutely.
So while it's nice to think that, oh, I am marketing, but then if you don't get into the depth of analytics, you will probably miss out on the strategic ways of making inroads for your brand. And now it's almost like everything has data, right? Almost everything you touch has data. So now, for example, we do social media insights now, right? So we are looking on the Google search to find out what are the patients searching for our brand, for our disease. Can we? And now that you have the data as a marketing, you can't sit on it.
Correct.
Right. Similarly, if you think of let's say even IQVIA, they have this subnational audit now. So within the city, you have pin code level data. Now, if you have data of Dadar sales versus Andheri sales, now you have to look at it. You have to make sure that you use it in some way. So I think if you don't understand analytics, it's great time to build those capabilities. I would highly recommend that if you are worried about Excel, jump right in, get your basic Excels ready, download an Excel sheet from IQVIA database or AVAX database, and start working on it. I think that's very, very important. The more you work with the data, the more interesting insights you'll get. The more interesting insights you'll get, your strategic mindset will start getting developed. The last piece, of course, is the whole communication, right? You have to negotiate. You have to tell good stories to your sales team because they are going to finally sell it. You have to have team building. You have to have leadership. So those are later. I think the first piece is execution. Then you develop a strategic mindset which has inbuilt analytics mindset and analytical agility. Then you think of the whole leadership part, storytelling, communication, negotiation, argue. You have to put your point across to your LT, right? With whom you don't agree. And they are your probably boss's boss, right? But you have to also be polite and disagree with them. How do you do that? It comes later, but you have to probably do that to become a marketing head at some point.
Absolutely. Very beautifully put, Dr. Somnath. I think it's very aptly put. So the piece of analytical agility, you can't afford now anymore to ignore the data analytics piece because you have data which is sitting in various parts of the organization. And you mentioned pin code level data is available. So what are you even looking for it? You can only act on it if you're looking for it. So what your message is, please start looking for it in the first place, then act on it. And then you can, because insights will build in a great deal of analytical rigor, and that's what you're talking about. This is really helpful for the new generation marketers because this is something that, and this is the skill set I think you will agree for the evolving future, which is already taking shape as we move into the digital era. Thanks to whatever the pandemic has forced upon us, right? Let's get to your the main piece of our, also another part of our discussion today is your wonderful stint which you've been having, a great ride with Johnson and Johnson Pharma business in India, right? You have you've already seen one high end of the business in terms of diabetes and cardiovascular, and now you're seeing the other part of the business when you started out in terms of the biologics piece. It is easy to launch a brand and make it successful, but it is equally very challenging to turn around an underperforming business. And when you walked into Janssen from IQVIA, You had, the immunology part of the business, which is a very big business for Janssen. I'm aware because of prior experience with Remicade and products. And to turn around businesses is one challenge. I mean, it's not very easy, but you did it after 4 years. So again, we would like to know what are some steps that you took with your marketing folks and colleagues to actually make this transformation happen, for the organization in terms of marketing. That would be
Sure.
great.
Sure. So I think just before that, before I get into the Janssen part, another important feedback and maybe a lesson that I learned during my first 5 years is that if you, whatever work you do, I mean, once you cross the first 2-3 years, that work then takes you places. If your work is great, people would call you and ask you to join a certain company, certain role. And that's something which is very, very important for every marketing person to know, that the work that you're doing is not just for today. It's basically building your future connect. Your future jobs depend on today's work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's a very good point. Your work speaks for itself. And,
yeah. So that's how I joined Janssen, and also innovative portfolio is difficult to sell. And I know most people think, hey, it's no competition, how big, it's not a big deal. But imagine selling a drug which is costing several lakh rupees to a patient. It's not easy. Poor reimbursement, expensive, few prescribers. None of the companies want to increase the market share or the pie, right? So it's a very fixed pie mindset that every company wants the same 100 doctors, right? So, and you have been there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And probably, Shailesh, even if you come now, it's the exact same immunologist or the rheumatologist who you will hear about, right? No new guys are there. How do you turn around a business like this? So, and that's again the work that I did in the consulting side of IQVIA, working with the consult team. You look at a business very dispassionately. The moment you get in, because you are new, it provides you that whole third party view. So it was clear to me that a lot of territory realignment is required. Yeah, you need to make sure that the right person is in the right place. So team changes, rethinking on the brand strategy. We launched a drug, and our sales still dipped. Now that's very, very painful, right? As an external person, you probably would skip it. But then when you are into the system and you realize that, hey, we launched a brand and still we are degrowing. How can that be possible? So rethinking on the basics of the brand strategy. And the last part, of course, is the reimbursement strategy. So it's not easy to sell a expensive therapy. You have to have a separate out-of-pocket strategy and a separate reimbursement strategy. So that's something which is very, very important. I think we did all of this, and we did all of this together, which was very, very difficult. And for a team which was set and they're all functioning in the same way, I came as a very unwelcome change, I guess, because new guy wants to change everything together. But I think the team really appreciated after they started seeing the change. So the first year that I was complete full year, we grew by 16%. Our brand that was really not doing too well, new launch brand, we grew by almost 46%. Small base, but then you need to start with somewhere. So I think a big learning for everyone. Never join a brand which is doing well. Always join when the chips are down, because whatever you do, right, you'll be able to show some progress, right? So turnaround is great place to join, because whatever you do, even if you make small changes, suddenly things start looking good. And I know, don't tell anyone else. If you're hearing this, just keep it to yourself. Turn around a fledgling brand which has a lot of potential. So I always tell these two things: join when the chips are down, and join in those places where there is high management interest. So don't join a fledgling brand where there is no management interest. Then you can't do anything. But if you are in a place so the brand is not doing well and management has a lot of interest, it's a sure shot way of success.
Brilliant again. Yeah. So join when the chips are down and join a place where the organizational interest is high. I know that's great. And I think some of the operational variables that you touched upon, Somnath, is very true, because without which you can't affect cause an impact, right? Like affecting the territory changes, manpower reallocation, territory alignment, maybe relooking at the strategy at a local level, going out there, putting an arm and limb in terms of doing the pricing, reimbursement, access model, which actually drives these high super specialty expensive brands. And I think that's the whole thing that you so beautifully captured. Excellent. And so you see that the business turnaround and you could able to demonstrate. That's very nice. So that gets you now to a phase where you are looked upon now with good or obviously marketing fundamentals, your ability to turn around business from a P&L standpoint, and now you get into the more evolved support role or a function. Again, I'm sure you took up by choice is to cause high impact at an organizational level through your role as the commercial excellence head, right? And it's very interesting, and I want to spend the next part of our discussion is you look after some of the most hotbed topics of our pharma industry in the last 5 years. I mean, everyone talks about commercial excellence, digital marketing, Salesforce analytics, etc. How has the journey been in Janssen Pharma so far? I mean, you've just started, but anything that you would like to share? I know it must be very exciting, but what are the building blocks and how you have gone about doing, just to get an understanding? Yeah.
So again, it was something which I had never done before. Okay, so let me be very honest, and commercial excellence is almost like everything else comes under you. Anything other than commercial will come under commercial excellence. So if you ask, even within Janssen, China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Australia, India, we all call ourselves commercial excellence, but everybody has a different definition.
Right.
So our definition under commercial excellence is Salesforce effectiveness and L&D when I started. Now after 2 years, we call ourselves customer engagement, insights analytics, learning and development, and digital. So it's very different the way we have organized ourselves. Now, the building block, I think the one thing which is, I call it as essential. I think I mentioned in a LinkedIn kind of post a few days back, was it's good to think of insights, but you can't get insights unless you have the data in the right way, in the right place, organized in the right way. Yeah? So that's something which I learned in IQVIA, that if the data is not organized in the right way, you can spend your 100 days and you'll get probably one insight. But if you can get the data in the right way, and that's what we did for the first 9 months. Now imagine a new country head joining Janssen India. He puts all his chips on me that, hey, you run the commercial excellence. And for 9 months, I'm telling him, I'm still working on cleaning the data.
Right. Absolutely. No.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. So imagine the plight of the entire leadership team who's thinking, what is this guy doing? But for 9 months, after 9 months, so the first 9 months, I started hiring people for insights. So the first 9 months, I was just cleaning data. I had data automation experts, data engineers. The entire company was saying, why don't you take data scientists? That's the most cool thing now, AI, ML. And I was saying, no, I need clean data. I need the data in one place. So imagine now we have the HR data, learning data, IMS data, sales data, you name it, everything is in one place, all connected. I can now tell the leadership team that a particular sales rep who is skipping his learning modules is also skipping meeting doctors. Through that extent, I can understand the correlation, right? So it opens up a very different view of my sales team's engagement. I can quickly understand which are the levers that we can kind of push or pull and drive sales. So I think that's important to set it before you think of doing all of this. It's only in the last 6 months that we are now doing AI/ML work, because we have done the entire data in one place. We have put an insights team, which is getting those right insights. Now we are thinking, okay, now I want to give that insight at the rep level for each doctor, which I can't do with my small insights team. That is where we are building the IML. And I can tell you, our models are much better now. I can also tell you that other countries and my other colleagues in the industry have tried data science first approach, but with unclean data, it doesn't work. It just doesn't run. So it clearly makes a lot of sense to have the data first and then build on it. The second part, of course, is with the insights engine in the middle, it helps everyone in the entire company. So I do HR analytics, I do people analytics and HR analytics. I do learning and development analytics. I do obviously IQVIA and the whole Salesforce analytics. I do Salesforce effectiveness analytics. So there is one insights analytics engine. I do supply chain. So clearly, if you have one place, one single team which can do all kinds of insighting, it really helps everyone come across. So now everyone in the company would not start a presentation in the leadership team without showing data. Because, if you don't, we are going to show. So it's better that you show.
Absolutely. No, it's so beautifully put by you. Actually, this is what you put it very simple, right? The first thing, as the first take-home message is, you need to have the data, the right set of data, the clean data, all organized in one place in the manner which is most efficient and effective, as you rightly said, because that's the first starting step. So you can't build out, without having this fundamental thing in place. And then once you build that out, and it takes time, right? As you said, 9 months, but then that propels you into the next quick phase of, running the analytics piece on that data across various functions, right? Whether it's the HR piece, the Salesforce piece, the Salesforce effectiveness, or the marketing analytics piece, by keeping that central engine at the core, so that because it's like a platform that is, lending itself to the various outputs, and that is giving meaningful kind of decision points for you to take on the business. I think this is very important because, and the beauty is that you never knew about it, but I think commonsensical approach probably has helped you to go in the right logical step. But Somnath, one thing when I talk to industry leaders, at not just commercial excellence heads, but also, business leads. I mean, because at the end of the day, you have that much only bandwidth to impact the business as a support function, right? But the real guys who bring in those dollars and the revenues are those BU heads and directors, etc. So to get their alignment to the fact that data analytics is important because it will help them manage their business better. Have you seen any challenges, or once you are able to demonstrate the proof of concept, they quickly get aligned to you? Because this is something which also needs to get addressed, right? So I thought if you can spend some time.
I think so. The most important part which many commercial excellence folks miss, and I'll say even marketing misses, is to sell their stuff better internally. Yeah, it's very important to sell your whatever you're doing internally very well for your career. Forget about anything else. If you can't sell your work better, it's very difficult to survive and thrive. So I would say, thankfully, I had a business side experience before I joined commercial excellence. So I knew exactly what were the problems of other business heads. And the other business heads would also confide to me that, hey, you know the problems, right? Why don't you solve them? So I aligned my team to have the customer mindset. And that's something which every marketing person, every commercial, anyone in the industry should know who the customers are. So my customers is the sales rep. So I told everyone that forget about everything. Your customer is the sales rep and the sales manager first. So we had a sales rep, sales manager's first approach. And then it obviously rolled up to every level, right? So then the BU heads would get everything rolled up. Then the VPs would get that. Then the country would get that. So that was the first thing, that you know who your customer is. Now, many times the marketing thinks my customer is my boss, which is an absolutely wrong approach. Your boss will be happy for some time, but then once the feedback starts coming in from the bottom, that hey, we are not getting anything, you probably lose out a lot of your reputation. So the first thing I would mention is that pick up the low hanging fruits, whether it's marketing or it's sales, commercial excellence, doesn't matter. Pick up the low hanging fruits. I would say one very, very low hanging fruit for Janssen was, I know it will sound very odd, but just adding and deleting a doctor from your CRM was a pain. So it would take more than a month to add a doctor or delete a doctor. Imagine 30 days plus to add, because approval levels, approval and approval. Yeah, you know that, right? So the Indian company guys would probably won't understand this, but it's an internal joke. Yeah. The approvals will kill you if you do. So now, what do? You have seen it from your own side as a business side. So we changed the system. We made sure that the reps can add the doctor from a global search button, and it goes to the manager for approval and no one else. It just stops there. No approval from commercial excellence head, no approval from BU head, because the sales rep and the manager know it best.
Absolutely.
So first thing I did was to clear out the processes. I remember when I joined, I had to approve like 20 approved emails, just approved, and you have to approve because, hey, the business said, salesman, everybody's approved. Who are you to say no? So I said, I'm not going to do this approval business. So I changed the process, cleaned the processes. Things automatically improved. People realize that, hey, I take like less than a day to add or delete a new doctor. Absolutely. Similarly, you do this for every single process. The moment the process improves, the business head will back you. I can't, I'll probably not tell you the actual numbers, but team doubled, my budget doubled, and something that I'm very proud of. The business head would come and say, hey, we have some money. You have an interesting project, which is so different from what I would probably imagine 2-3 years back. And you have to
go and beg for money.
Exactly.
Please give us some money. I have no cost center.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So, and you drive value, right? So, for example, a very interesting thing. The country head or the VPs of the company love dashboards, right? And obviously you have to give dashboards. So our team insights plus dashboard. So we made humongous amount of dashboards. And then we realized that, hey, the managers also have a dashboard, which they don't look. Right? They don't look at it. They are very defensive about the dashboard. It's a once a month affair where the managers are defensive. The franchise said, hey, I'm looking at this is not right, and they're, no, we are doing all of this. So it's a difficult conversation. Now that is where we have started building AI, right? So how can we give them a next best action today rather than make them wait for the month-end dashboard discussion, right? Now, many of the sales managers don't like dashboards. They like Excels. They are very comfortable with Excel sheets. And I'm sure you also know a lot of people, seasoned sales reps, sales managers, they love Excel and they're good at Excel. How can I deny them an Excel sheet? So now our strategy for this year, give them Excel sheets. Give them nice dashboards with the raw data and Excel sheet. Let them play with it. Rather than dragging them to a dashboard, which they don't like.
Right.
So I would imagine that think of the customer, and many of your choices become much clearer if you know your customer.
Right. No, that's again very beautifully put, Dr. Somnath. Very practical, grounded stuff that you're making so much of ample sense to me and to our viewers, that do the right thing, be simple, and just do what the customer wants or is able to identify with, right? Because as a marketer, you and I know we used to talk about customer, speak the language the customer understands, but when it's your internal customer, give him the tool that he wants to identify himself with. And Excel is the best analytical tool to a large extent, even for a beginner. I totally agree with you.
And maybe just one last thought, that it also helps you say no to a lot of things. Absolutely. For example, the marketing team is slightly, obviously better, more data savvy than the sales team. But I'm happily saying no to the marketing because, hey, my customer is the sales rep and the manager. You are supposed to do a lot of things yourself. We are happy to help you. But if we are going to teach you how to fish, not give you the fish, I'm probably going to give that fish to the sales manager, sales reps, who can then immediately work on the field and then get things done.
Correct.
So it also helps you say no to a lot of things, a lot of requests that comes in, and make sure that you are doing what will help you at the ground level.
Very, very nicely and very beautifully put, Dr. Somnath. This is real helpful messaging for our viewers, because they now realize, how to go about their roles in a more effective manner.
I'll probably also give you another example. That's marketing.
Yeah.
I have never heard a marketing team member putting learning and development of the sales reps high on their agenda. I'm yet to meet someone. And yet, whatever huge pipe of marketing campaigns they build all go through the sales reps. And yet, they don't really spend time to think, okay, how should I train them better? What is the best way of energizing them with our brand? Especially in Indian companies where the sales rep is probably selling 10 different products for 10 different marketing or sales or product managers, right? So if you don't think of learning and development and think of the sales reps as your customer, you're not going to reach your end consumer or the HCPs. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, and what strikes me, Dr. Somnath, what you just said of that he's not putting that L&D development, this should actually get escalated automatically about what you said a few minutes ago, where your analytics engine showed up that the reps who were not doing the L&D assignments or exercises were actually not making calls on customers. So maybe the obvious insight is that the lack of product knowledge and the high science knowledge for selling that brand would be probably preventing him from making those calls. So the brand manager needs to understand that at large level, probably invest more time in training and equipping him with the standard knowledge and skills. Yeah. So you need to get to those kind of correlations, and that can only happen when analytics engines throw up. No, this is
absolutely. I'll give you another very good example of how our biases are. And this is important because you raised a very interesting point. If you ask a sales manager, who is your most knowledgeable sales rep, he will point the finger towards the sales rep who has the highest sales figures. Absolutely. It's always. We asked it in different forms and every time we got the same answer. How do you change that mindset? So as a L&D head, we have a test every quarter where all the sales reps sit and do that test online. Now, the moment you do an online test, you figure out that many of the seasoned sales reps are not that knowledgeable. Hard to digest, but once you have data, you can't refute that. You can go, so you can actually, we showed a divergence of the rating that the managers gives and the actual knowledge scores. And that's a big ticket item for the marketing to work on.
Absolutely. I'm not surprised, Somnath. I'm not surprised. I've seen this because you're blinded by that sales number, revenue generating piece so much that everything else is pardoned. So, he's rated the best because he has knowledge. So he's bringing in the sales. It could be because of, I think this is a beautiful.
So everybody knows it, but then you have to get the data on the table.
Absolutely. Very, very well put, Dr. Somnath. Very well put. I think this is a very interesting piece of the conversation in terms of the kind of value creation you're doing for your internal stakeholders, essentially your salespeople, your business heads, and driving the organization towards a data-driven decision process, right? Because then when you do this data-driven process, the outcomes will certainly be better than what they were yesterday. I think this is what all marketers need to understand and imbibe. Great. I think we are almost out of time, Dr. Somnath, and I wouldn't want to, extend it because I respect your time. It's been fantastic talking to you because I think some of the learnings that you shared with us right from the beginning, and I was looking forward to this, and that's why I wanted you to be a part of these series, is project management skills, alliance management skills. You've spoken about, taking risk by jumping at the deep end of the pool for marketeers, being very clear about how you want to get sorted out, then doing the right stuff in a simple, fabricated way, and, so that in a way that everybody understands it. I think some of those learnings are going to be, invaluable for our audience. Before we sign off, Dr. Somnath, any last messages or any words of whatever gathered wisdom, because wisdom in any form through experience or learning is always most valuable. I would, request you or ask you to share with us. Yeah. Any of your...
I think it's and maybe I want to warn everyone. I think that's something that I want to give everybody, that the entire industry is changing and it's changing very fast. And I can tell you that in the last 10 years experience, what I've seen in 2010 versus what I see now, there's a sea change, and the change is coming very, very fast. I know it sounds very, it might depress a lot of people, but I think many of the marketing team members would get redundant if they don't change their ways. You have a lot of channels now. If you keep ignoring those channels, you are going to get nowhere. Yeah. The doctors, even you, I think we are consuming our content in very different ways now. We get convinced in different ways. And if you still think that my old ways will continue to give me dividends, it would not. If you are a lazy marketeer, you probably join a large brand and stay there forever because it's a set business. But if you are not, if you are unlucky, then you really need to figure out how do you engage your SCPs in a meaningful way. How do you really make sure that your content is consumed in the right way? You can sway opinions in a way which is in the new age things are happening, right? So those are very, very important, whether you call it as digital marketing, whether you call it analytics, but things are changing super fast. So I have this fear that many of the marketing team members that I see right now across industry might just get redundant in the next 10 years. And if you don't, let's not change, if you don't change the ways. So my sincere request is keep experimenting. Don't say no to new ways, because you never know where the world is going to go. So if you have to keep your eyes, ears open, keep experimenting with different channels, keep using different engagement models, and then something would probably stick on, and it will not be what you are doing right now. Yeah.
Very great points, Dr. Somnath. This is, I think it's spot on in terms of your closing messages. Thank you so much for those closing messages, because we are moving into a very different kind of business world, and we are forced to. I mean, there is no option. And redundancy is a big threat, which is true. And we will bring it upon ourselves if we are not going to move with the times and reskill ourselves, upskill ourselves, both reskilling, upskilling, and also, as you said, unlearning a lot of things which are actually detracting value from the whole business processes and for value creation. So I think you have put it very, very beautifully. Thank you so much for your time, and it's been an absolute pleasure in conversation with you. And I'm extremely delighted to have you on our call, on our show today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to again interact. I hope it helps people who listen in. I know it's long 1 hour conversation, but if people are still there, I think they should get some of the messages very clear, and hopefully it will help them in their career.
Absolutely, Dr. Somnath. And I just want to leave you with a thought that YouTube analytics now shows that actually raw unedited versions of interactions have got higher pull rate than actually the edited ones of 20 minutes. So this is something that I know. So most of the guys are actually watching more than 1 hour with riveted attention, because it is a raw conversation that you're having. It's not the one. So thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Wonderful interacting. Let's stay safe and stay in touch, and have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, sir.